Walsh here. I don't give a damn if the rest of the world doesn't know what to make of Trump. I think that's a good thing. We'll talk about it when Freedom returns at 5.
Morning, Dan and Amy. I guess more fodder for Randy from Elkhorn's costume this Halloween. More shoes dropping in the Weinstein case, the human stain. Zelda Perkins, who is his personal assistant at Miramax's London office, has broken her NDA and given an interview to the Financial Times in which she alleges that the stain sexually harassed her and actually assaulted her female colleague, leading to a settlement.
With her? So now
Yes.
If you break a non-disclosure agreement, do you have to pay the money back?
Well, it depends it depends on the particular nature of the NDA, but I mean, you think that Harvey Weinstein is going to be trying to claw back damages for an NDA that's been violated with all the problems he has? Unlikely. Speaking of which, another individual who had interactions with Harvey Weinstein over an extended period of time, a number of years, his former chauffeur, who...
Chauffeurs know everything. What did the chauffeur say?
His name is Mikhail Shamlalulala. I don't know. I can't pronounce.
I had that for dinner last night.
It's good.
At a French restaurant.
Yeah. And this was his chauffeur in Cannes, and he talked about how Harvey Weinstein would lure women back to the back of the vehicle for the obvious things. And he also heard one instance where he was having relations in the back of the car, and the woman in question was begging him not to hurt her.
Oh, my gosh.
And ultimately, he stopped his employment with Harvey Weinstein when Harvey Weinstein physically assaulted him, the chauffeur. So he's got a lot of details. So, it's just...
this guy's anger issues?
Well, he's got all kinds of issues. That's why he's the human stain. He is a reprobate and perhaps a violent criminal. We'll see what law enforcement uncovers and whether he's ultimately prosecuted consistent with some of the allegations of a criminal nature that have been leveled against him. For more on Hollywood, as other scumbags are being outed, the most recent, yesterday, David O. Russell, the director of hit films like Silver Linings Playbook and American Gangster, apparently he's another well-known groper in Hollywood circles. So for more on this, somebody who may have some insights, a accomplished Hollywood screenwriter in his own right, he is Andrew Klavan. Andrew, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Dan. Thanks.
So what about all of this that's coming out, Toback and Russell after Weinstein, and some shots taken at A-list actors like Ben Affleck for past indiscretions? Do you have any insight in terms of the Hollywood culture from your time there?
Yeah, it's a toxic mix in a way. And the guys who do this stuff, especially guys who put their hands on people where they shouldn't be and who force people to do things. I mean, that to me is criminal. I don't even believe you should be able to sign an NDA that doesn't allow you to report a criminal act.
Right.
That doesn't seem right to me.
No.
But think about it for a minute. You've got these volatile men in positions of tremendous power. And I say they're volatile because they're artists, they're creative people. Creative people tend to be a little bit lunatic, a little bit out there. And then you've got women who are coming out to this town. They're very beautiful, and they're kind of, actresses tend to be insecure, and they want to win the love of millions because they don't feel that they have the love of somebody close to them usually. I mean, that's a pretty, I know that's a stereotype, but it's a pretty good stereotype of the way people get into show business. So you have this toxic mix of women who are desperate for attention and women who are coming out here and will do anything to get a career, and guys who take advantage of that and are cruel and brutal. And I don't even think you can get into the idea that they're sexist, because guys like Harvey Weinstein were reputed to treat men. I knew men who worked for Harvey Weinstein who said they were poorly treated too, Yeah. So I think you have this mix of like unbridled power and people who are just a little unbalanced. The industry attracts people who are unbalanced, and you're going to get these kinds of these kinds of incidents. What really does seems to me a burden, and seems to me something that Hollywood and other businesses should address, is ways of making it possible for people to come forward without destroying their careers. I think it's not fair to say of these women, I've heard people say, well, they didn't come forward for 20 years, where were they? Well, there are people who want to live their lives, and there's an incident that may have traumatized them or hurt them or done something, and they balance that against their career, and they want to go forward. It seems to me, a woman should be able to go to work and have a profession and have a career without some clown brutalizing her and getting away with it. And it just seems that there's some kind of breakdown here in the way this stuff gets. It's just human. Forget about the sex. I know the sex angle is the good, the thing that people want to hear on TV, see on TV, and all this stuff. But forget about that. People just shouldn't be treated this way, and there ought to be a system in place for letting them report it in a responsible way, without being destroyed.
But in the TV news business, I was in that for 18 years. If you went and complained, you're in fear of losing your job.
Of course. I mean,
So I understand why these women didn't come forward.
Yeah, I mean, at Fox News, where there are all these beautiful women wandering around, if they have a huge star that they're trying to protect, who are they going to believe? Who are they going to protect? They're going to protect the moneymaker. It's going to happen that's going to happen each and every time. And it does seem to me, look, people make false accusations. People lie. Women, men, all people lie. So you do have to protect the accused. The guy's got to be assumed innocent until he's proved guilty. But at the same time, it does seem to me there ought to be ways of coming forward where you're not exposed necessarily right away, so that you can at least make a complaint. This guy attacked me. Harvey Weinstein cornered me. You should be able to go to the police without your career going down the drain.
It's interesting to me that how leftist politics plays into this, though. And I mean, this BuzzFeed piece by a feminist, Bim Adewunmi, where she essentially is complaining that Harvey Weinstein only sexually assaulted white women. I mean, that's not exactly true. That's not exactly true. He actually allegedly assaulted Lupita. What's
Right.
the actress's name from 12 Years a Slave? But she's literally saying that women weren't making it into black women weren't making it into Weinstein's predatory thought process except to be excluded. That's lamentable. I mean, this is the poison of identity politics, but this is the politics of that Hollywood culture, too.
Well, I am an ardent anti-feminist, and I say this knowing that sometimes it makes people think that I'm not for women's rights. I am for women's rights, but I think leftists ruin everything, and I think feminists take issues like this and they make the women unsympathetic by, hammering men. I mean, I believe that men have a responsibility to protect women. I believe that is the old system, and it's the system that works best. The thing that really bothers me about the Harvey Weinstein affair is that nobody except for Brad Pitt, threatened him or said, "Get the hell away from my girl." I mean, Brad Pitt at least went up to him and said, "Stay away from Gwyneth Paltrow,"
and then did 2 movies with him.
Yeah, it may not be John Wayne, but at least it's something. Somebody said something,
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, where are all the guys? Where were the guys who stood up to Harvey Weinstein and said, I'm going to paste you if you do that? People keep saying this is a problem. I heard, Emma Thompson say this is a problem with toxic masculinity. I think it's not enough masculinity. I think we
Exactly.
there was a story today about David Schwimmer, the guy from Friends, who was having an interview in a noisy room, and he invited the woman back to his hotel room, and he said, "But let me bring somebody with us so you feel safe." I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Good for him. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you're thinking about other people, and it's just, again, it's not even a matter of sexuality; it's a matter of humanity, of treating people decently. And I think I think the feminists always make these into feminist issues. But I think I'd much rather see them framed as human issues. Just how do you treat other human beings?
Well, with Bill Cosby, it was 1 victim, then 2, then it ended up being 79. In this case, how many Hollywood producers and TV stars and, celebrity chefs are going to be coming, people are going to be making allegations against them? When do you think it'll end?
Oh, it won't end if they, as long as the news is hungry for it, there'll be people to accuse. There's an old expression in Hollywood, it doesn't count on location, and it means that if you go and you cheat on your spouse on location, it doesn't count, because when you're in a movie, everybody's kind of sexually tangled up together. I think that also goes for sexual abuse. I think that people feel that when they're in this fantasy world, when they're making these movies, they're doing this stuff, that they can do things that they would not do otherwise, and that they're in a business that's protected from the view of, it's protected by glamour, it's protected by Democrat politics, it's protected by all kinds of things. And I just think that it's going to continue until, until they put in a system that helps it stop.
And Thomas Frank had an interesting piece in The Guardian on the topic of Weinstein and essentially, again, the political angle. And he talked about, the liberalism that pervades Hollywood and that part of the liberalism and the virtue signaling in even in Harvey Weinstein's first sort of mea culpa, where he talks about going after the NRA and scholarships for female directors and all that, those misdirection plays. It's all about using those issues as license for, indulging in rapacious and destructive and sometimes criminal appetites. And that's the liberalism is their cover.
Well, sure. They're essentially paying off the authorities. I mean, I have no doubt that they actually believe in liberal politics, but when you're making tremendous donations, I mean, Harvey Weinstein was a huge bundler and donator to liberal campaigns. You're paying off the cops, essentially. You're paying off the people who would expose you if they weren't indebted to you. And of course, it's a safety net for guys like this. When Harvey Weinstein was first accused, his first strategic move was to say, yes, and now I'm going to go fight the NRA. And, he thought, well, that will quiet them down. And, of course, it's gotten beyond that. But it took he's bound here a long time. So it took a long time before, we got beyond the fact that he had paid off the people who were supposed to be watching over the weak, basically. And it works.
And the men without chests in Hollywood. He is Andrew Klavan, screenwriter, author of the book The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ, which is very good. Also, a new podcast you can get at ricochet.com, Another Kingdom, and I haven't had a chance yet, but our producer listened to. He says it's quite good. It's called Another Kingdom, original stories narrated that Andrew Klavan has written that are narrated. So Another Kingdom is the podcast, and the book, The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ. Andrew, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
You're the best, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago